This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs. For the last 60 years, the Diocese of Wilmington has had an excellent newspaper. It's called the Dialog. And with me today to talk about the Dialog newspaper is the editor and general manager of the Dialog, Mr. Joseph P. Owens. Joe, you're usually on the show, but you're usually just giving the news. Now it's your turn to sit down behind the microphone and answer questions. Right?
Happy to be here and provide whatever information I can.
Well, we're all so proud of the Dialogue and all the things that you and your staff have accomplished over the last few years, and I think it's about time that we let our folks know about it. First of all, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would, please.
Sure. I'm a Philly boy. Our Lady of Lourdes Parish in Overbrook section of West Philadelphia. In Philly, we always describe ourselves by what parish we're from. Newspapers, some of the older folks will remember the Evening Bulletin. I started there when I was 15 years old. It folded in 1982. From there, I was a reporter and editor in Norristown, PA, and then in Easton, PA, I was managing editor and editor. Ended up in South Jersey, where I was publisher and editor, and here I am in Delaware, very happily. I am the youngest of five. My late brother, who was a priest in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, was the oldest, and we have three sisters in between. I'm married 30, now I'm going to get in trouble, almost 38 years to my wife, Christy, and we have three children, and we also, three grown children, and we also have our 10-year-old grandson, Joey, who lives with us.
That's wonderful.
In New Jersey.
That's wonderful. And you commute across the bridge to
I do.
Wilmington every day.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Why is it important for diocese to have a newspaper?
Well, it's one of my favorite questions because I like to say if we don't tell our story, no one will. That media landscape I just described was an awful lot different 40 years ago. You talked about 60 years ago when the Dialogue was created. I mean, I don't need to tell you, Bob, you've been in the media business a long time. There just aren't the resources. There isn't the local coverage. There isn't the kind of community news that I've made my career on and that people became accustomed to. And we provide that. And our diocese is a community. It's a community of parishes, and our geography is so wide, one end to the other, that it's hard to keep people in the loop sometimes. And the Dialogue helps do that. We try to find stories in every part of the diocese, and share it with those around us.
Yeah, I know that. Like you said, our diocese is large, and up in the north end of the diocese in Wilmington, we're all kind of Philadelphia oriented.
Yes.
But as you move down the diocese to Dover and then down into Maryland, you have folks who are Baltimore oriented, folks who are DC oriented, and it's difficult for a diocese as diverse as ours to promote a diocesan-wide community because it's so spread apart and people are from different backgrounds and root for different sports teams and so forth. So
we're trying to fix that. I think the clergy goes a long way to helping bring that together. And many of our clergy members have either are native to certain parts of our diocese or have been stationed in different areas in our diocese. That's one thing. I mean, schools go a long way to bringing people together, too. And we have a good, vibrant group of Catholic schools, both, elementary and high school. Sports, like you say, not just Eagles, Phillies, Ravens, Orioles, but high schools, that get out, people travel, and it's large, but it's small. I mean, we are small. Let's not forget, smallest state, right? And lots.
Yeah, second smallest.
Rhode Island. Okay, yeah, the Diamond State, the first state. Yeah. Got it. Thanks for correcting me on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you're welcome. The Dialog's been around for almost 60 years, right?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the history.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. We're going to try to make a splash with that next year. Bishop Heil, was he a Baltimore guy? Was he? I don't remember his
Not sure.
origin, but he was, as all bishops were, involved in the Second Vatican Council. And it was during that time that he had essentially instructed folks working for him to study the idea of doing a Catholic newspaper here in the diocese. And, there had been Catholic newspapers elsewhere, the Review in Baltimore and the Standard Times in Philly. And Camden is one of the places that still does have a newspaper similar to ours in format. I think coming out of the Second Vatican Council, the idea of evangelization was an important theme, and that's part of what we do. We evangelize, and that's really been since day one, from what I could tell. I've recently been dipping back into some of the history of the paper, but we've had opportunities to talk to parishioners in group settings, and that's one of the things we say is like we help spread the word, spread the word of Jesus, and spread the word of what's going on in our world.
Yeah. I guess during Vatican II, there were so many changes taking place, and that was a good vehicle for the bishop to communicate to his people and say, okay, this is what's coming, and this is why, and that's still very important today. With
it definitely is
to give a voice to the bishop to communicate with the people.
It definitely is, and we had a change in bishops 3 years ago, and Bishop Koenig has had numerous initiatives in the last 3 years. Almost all of which have involved communication, your operation and us, and that's exciting for us because it's a new different opportunity, and we're always looking to sort of show our value, and help people grow, and parishes and schools, and I think that's how it happens. That has happened, and it's been very fruitful for all of us, I think, to do some of this stuff.
You've been in media for many years. What are some of the changes that you've seen, over your years?
Well, I'll start with this. I worked for an evening paper when I started. I mean, you remember, I guess, was the News American an evening paper?
It was. I used to deliver that back
sure.
in the
everybody,
70s.
The Bulletin had a slogan in Philadelphia, nearly everybody reads the Bulletin. And it was true. They had, when it folded, it was a 400,000 circulation daily.
Wow.
So evening newspapers, the thinking fell off with the competition of evening news, not just Walter Cronkite, but John Facenda and, name a Baltimore person for me.
Jerry Turner.
Yeah. Okay. That was people were commuting more. They weren't, they were driving really. So, they were reading the news in the mornings. Obviously the digital age, is got to be the biggest change that I've seen, and that probably anyone has seen in our industry. I feel as if news organizations, newspapers in particular, were slow to the draw on getting up to speed with that. Now you're all over the place. The Dialog.org, we've that's been one of the things we've done in the last 6 or 7 years is really grow that. And you can get news about anything pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. So the Dialog has kept up with these changes with the website and the Angelus and other things, social media.
Yes.
What am I forgetting?
Well, I don't know that you're forgetting anything. Those are big ones. The Dialog.org is our website, and it's updated daily, multiple times a day. We use social media. We have a woman named Erica Harmer who does good work in staying on top of sort of cutting edge kind of social media approaches. the Angelus is very important because there used to be a joke in the news business when digital was coming upon us. If you don't like the landscape today, don't worry because it'll be changed by tomorrow. And that's still the case. So we're always struggling against the big cats, the Googles and the Facebooks. But one of the areas I try to stay on top of it to the extent that I'm able, but outbound news and outbound products are important because then you kind of eliminate the search engine aspect of it. I was fortunate when I got here that there had already been the Angelus was underway, and we kind of expanded that. And for those who don't know, if you go to the Dialog.org, at the top there's a button that says "Get Our Newsletter." You click on it and type in your name and your email address, and that's it. And you will get, on Mondays, you will get a liturgical, sort of catechetical influenced piece. And Wednesdays and Thursdays, you'll get news items that are a combination of local, national, international, the Vatican. And then we also have another product there. It's called Angelus Partners, where some of our advertising partners get to spread the message that they use. We've had some pretty good clients in that area. Right now, Malvern Retreat House is utilizing Angelus Partners. Our development office has been a strong supporter. They've seen results from that. St. Thomas More Oratory has used it, which is now branded as the Newman Center. So we have grown that. We're continuing to try to grow that. The dialog.org/newsletter, you can sign up. I would encourage people to do that because it's free.
Yeah,
and there's a lot there.
Sure, and you can keep up with Catholic news from our local parishes all the way up to the diocese and our schools and
Pope Francis
all the way through.
Yeah.
My guest today on Catholic Forum is Joseph P. Owens, editor and general manager of the Dialog. As you mentioned, 3 years ago we got a new bishop, Bishop Koenig, and the Dialog has stepped up to serve the bishop as he established new initiatives for the Diocese of Wilmington. Give us a few examples of that.
Yeah. Probably the first may have been Reconciliation Monday. Well, actually, the very first we did a Bishop Koenig section. We did a section that sort of introduced him, and that was very successful. We had a lot of content in there. But then Bishop came along and trying to get people back to church. Right, that's one of everyone's mission, including ours, and obviously his. And I think he had borrowed the idea from his former diocese, which was Rockville Center in New York. And during Holy Week on Mondays, he instructed and directed each church in the diocese to be open from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. for reconciliation, to staff confessions on those days, with the idea being that if you're coming home from work or you're closer to your parish and your work than you are to home, you can get there pretty much at any time. There's, it's kind of hard to make an excuse to not get there. And we've done it. You've done it. I've done it.
Sure.
And, the idea is to get people ready for Easter and, back in line with the church. And from what we can tell, we've done a lot. You've done a lot of promotion of it, and we have, and from the feedback we get, it's been very successful.
It's always Monday of Holy Week, and last 3 years we've had between 5,000 and 6,000 people go to confession on that day.
So I'm looking here. You can help me out, Bob.
Well, Eucharistic Adoration Week, which we had last December.
Right.
Yeah.
Bishop has, I guess, in looking at the calendar, saw that there was an open. That was a Monday too, I think.
Well, it was a week.
It was a week, right?
Yeah.
Before Advent, right?
After
Advent. Thanksgiving and before Advent. So it was Eucharistic Adoration Week, and that was right up our alley, more or less, because we had been running and still run a list of Eucharistic adoration times and places. Mm-hmm. So we did even more because more parishes joined in, and we helped promote that, and people got out and met with Christ.
Yeah.
And it was a good deal.
And then the biggie coming up on October
Yeah.
5th is our big Eucharistic Congress.
Right. Our Eucharistic Congress. I wanted to say one thing too about the paper in general, and I'm glad we mentioned Bishop Heil because he was the pioneer. I've been here almost 7 years now. We've had two bishops that have been very supportive of the newspaper. Bishop Koenig is a newspaper guy, and Bishop Maluli before him.
Right.
And they, that's really important. I think that they see value in it and support it, and both of them do. I had made a note of that. I didn't want to forget that. October 5th, the day after October 4th, which we have a dialogue edition that day, in Ocean City, Maryland, the Diocese of Wilmington Eucharistic Congress will be held in Ocean City, Maryland, at the Convention Center. We are going to have a special section in our October 4th edition. I think several thousand people are expected to be in attendance there. We're going to have newspapers available. There is going to be a ministry fair there, in addition to the various, presentations and speakers and content. But the ministries in the diocese that provide various services for people in the diocese and parishes will be represented, and people will be meeting them. The dialogue will have a space, and hopefully we'll get to meet some folks and people can ask us questions. What else is going on? So the keynote speaker, as it turns out, was a bishop who at the time was the Bishop of Providence, Rhode Island, who I think knows Bishop Koenig because they both came out of Rockville Center as priests. And just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he was named by Pope Francis to be the next Archbishop of Boston, Richard Henning. So the Archbishop-elect of Boston, 2 weeks before his installation in Boston, will be in Ocean City, Maryland,
right,
delivering the keynote address to congregants, to people who go to the Eucharistic Congress. It's it was a pretty exciting thing to begin with, and I think that really, helped rev it up a little bit. It's a nice thing, and people are excited about seeing and hearing him.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day, and as always, the dialogue will be a leader in not only getting the word out beforehand, but also having content on the day of, so people can follow along with the program and so forth.
Absolutely. You're going to be live streaming some of it, right? Is that going to be?
That's the hope.
That's the plan. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to point people to cdow.org/Eucharistic Congress, where they can register for the event. So that's cdow/Eucharistic Congress. But yeah, we're going to have a number of different things. I'm hoping that we can get Archbishop Henning in advance to get an interview with him and talk about his experience with Bishop Koenig and obviously what he plans to say about the relationship with the Eucharist. And I'd like to know if he's ever been to Delaware before, or Maryland in this case. I suspect he has been to Maryland, and most people on the East Coast have at least driven through Delaware at some point or another, right?
And we appreciate their contribution.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, you mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the things, who's going to tell our story? If we don't, nobody else will. And I think there's no greater example of that than life issues.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the secular media, if they mention life issues, it's certainly not within the scope of Catholic teaching. It's most usually it's quite the opposite. So the dialogue really is an important voice in my opinion, in Maryland and Delaware to promote life issues. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it goes beyond that they they don't report about it. I think that it's as if there aren't two sides to the issue.
Right.
When you hear secular news reports, and I get it. They point to polls and various indicators that a lot of it has to do with politics, which we're not going to talk about here.
Right.
But how do we? If the question comes down, how do we get our information? We're very fortunate that we have many grassroots efforts here in the diocese, and there is a pro-life side to the issue, and that's my complaint with the secular media. It's like there are opposing points of view. Right. Sometimes you would think that there isn't, that there's just one. But for us, again, it's a challenge geographically because there's different places. But we're fortunate that we have a number of very, very active and devout people who stay in touch with us. There's a Knights of Columbus member by the name of Felix Patelli, who I think maybe you've interviewed before, and he's always on top of it. And there's other people. Nancy Frick comes to mind. There's a person in Dover. There's people along the beaches, and they stay in touch with us, and they're active. Julie Easter's another person who's here in Wilmington who we deal with quite a bit, and that's part of what we are about.
And another example of that is how many people in our diocese would know about the dangers of having a physician-assisted suicide bill if it weren't for the dialogue. I mean,
well, I like to think that, and I thank you for saying that. But it's been a major issue for us. I mean, we've followed it all the way through. For those who don't know, it made it through the legislature, both the House and the Senate, and is awaiting action by Governor Carney. And we're certainly encouraging him to either veto it or just turn it back. And asking constituents to do the same. But that was an excellent argument. So many people came forward with, I mean, not just people, in vestments. Like right. It was medical people and people in social services and special needs. We had a lot of content. Some of it was written. We wrote or published articles, items, opinion pieces about why it's really bad and that life should be until its natural end. And it seems as if we never get away from the issue because we also have Maryland, and it's been an issue there. But we're hoping that we were successful this time too.
Well, time will tell.
Yeah.
We're out of time, Joe. What else would you like to say?
Well, again, the dialog.org/newsletter. Please sign up if you are not signed up. That will really go a long way to keeping you informed. I always tell people, they're like, well, what makes a good newspaper? I think, or a news website, if it's a reflection of the community, an accurate reflection of community, then it's a good vehicle. And I feel like the Dialog and the dialog.org and its great dedicated staff does that for people. They provide a reflection for the Catholic community in Delaware and the Eastern Shore of Maryland.
Joe Owens, editor and general manager of the Dialog, thanks for your good work, and thanks for being with us today on Catholic Forum.
Thanks for having me.